They laughed at him the very first time he tried to speak. "Co, can I sit here?" he asked in class, his voice trembling, his words breaking into uneven fragments. The room erupted in cruel chuckles. Some kids mimicked him, dragging their syllables, making it sound like a broken record. For a boy named Ethan, who already felt small in a world that rewarded confidence, those moments became daggers he carried inside his heart. But what nobody knew, not even Ethan himself, was that the same boy they mocked for stuttering would one day silence the entire crowd, not with words, but with his fists, his courage, and the fire in his soul. Ethan grew up quiet. He hated raising his hand in class, not because he didn't know the answers, but because he feared the sound of his own voice. Every stumble, every hesitation, every long pause where the right word just wouldn't come, it felt like the world was watching, waiting to laugh. And often, they did. At lunch tables, the bullies would wait for him to speak, then repeat his stutter with exaggerated cruelty. Here comes Ethan, they'd say. He would lower his head, clutch his tray, and sit at the farthest corner. But inside, Ethan had a fire. A quiet determination. A yearning to prove that his voice, though different, didn't make him weak. That's when he discovered boxing. It started by accident. One rainy afternoon, trying to avoid his tormentors after school, Ethan ducked into a small gym down the street. The smell of sweat and leather filled the air. Heavy bags thudded with every punch. Men and women, young and old, moved with focus and rhythm. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt invisible, in the best way. Nobody cared how he spoke. Nobody mocked him. They only saw his eyes, his fists, his effort. An old coach named Ramirez noticed him lingering at the doorway. "You here to train or just watch, kid?" Ramirez asked, his voice rough but kind. Ethan swallowed hard. His words caught in his throat. I want a TRO train. The coach didn't laugh. He didn't mock. He just nodded. Good. Boxing don't care if you stutter. Boxing only cares if you show up. Those words sank deep into Ethan's heart. Training wasn't easy. His arms ached, his legs burned, and his lungs screamed for air. But every time he wanted to quit, he remembered the laughter, the voices of bullies echoing in his head. Each punch he threw at the heavy bag was like breaking through their insults. Each drop of sweat carried away a piece of his fear. Slowly, boxing began to change him. Not just his body, but his spirit. The stutter didn't vanish, but something inside Ethan grew stronger. In the gym, nobody cared how he talked. They cared how hard he worked. He built discipline, confidence, and resilience. Coach Ramirez reminded him often, "Listen, Ethan. In life, people will always find something to laugh at. But when you fight with heart, those same people will watch in silence." One day, the very bullies who tormented Ethan discovered his secret. They saw him leaving the gym with hand wraps peeking out of his backpack. "Boxing," one sneered. "Don't tell me STSTST stuttering Ethan thinks he's a fighter now." The others laughed until tears rolled down their cheeks. But Ethan didn't flinch this time. He looked them in the eyes and walked away. He didn't need to answer with words. His training would speak for him. Months turned into years. Ethan's skills sharpened. He entered small local tournaments, then bigger ones. With every fight, his name spread. He wasn't just the kid with the stutter anymore, he was Ethan, the fighter with unmatched grit. Yet, even as he rose, the doubts never fully left. Before every match, his nerves would creep in. His old fears whispered, "What if they laugh at you again? What if you fail?" But then he would remember all the times he survived humiliation and pain, and he would step forward anyway. The day of the championship arrived. It was held in the same town where his bullies still lived. And yes, they were there, sitting in the crowd, smirking as he entered the ring. Ethan caught their eyes for a brief moment. They mouthed words he didn't need to hear to understand. They expected him to lose. They expected him to crumble. But as the bell rang, something incredible happened. Ethan fought with a focus so fierce, the arena grew silent. His opponent was bigger, faster, stronger, or so it seemed. But Ethan's punches carried years of pain, years of laughter turned into fuel. Every jab, every hook, every slip and counter was poetry in motion. The bullies who once laughed at him leaned forward, their smirks fading. The crowd roared louder with every round Ethan survived, then dominated. In the final round, when Ethan landed the decisive blow, his opponent staggered and fell. The referee counted. The bell rang. The match was his. And the arena erupted, not with laughter, but with thunderous applause. Ethan didn't raise his arms out of arrogance. He stood tall with quiet dignity, sweat dripping, chest heaving. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like the boy with a stutter. He felt like a champion. And when his eyes found his bullies in the crowd, he didn't sneer. He didn't mock them back. He simply nodded, as if to say, I don't need revenge. My victory is enough. Ethan's story spread far beyond the ring. People who once mocked him now admired him. Kids who struggled with their own insecurities saw in him a hero. And Ethan realized something important: his stutter was never his weakness. It was his strength, the very thing that shaped his resilience. He began speaking not perfectly, but passionately at schools and community centers, telling kids, your differences don't define your limits. They define your strength. And every word, no matter how broken or delayed, carried more power than 1,000 flawless speeches. So, remember this: the people who laugh at you today might one day cheer for you tomorrow. And the struggles you carry right now might become the very reasons you rise higher than anyone expects. If Ethan could turn his pain into triumph, so can you.